You've got a lot of knives in this place. Tell me about it. Damn, this thing has a good weight to it. Of course, I wouldn't make you compete with an inferior tool. Ha. What? Sorry, I was waiting for you to segue into calling me an inferior tool. Shit, that was low-hanging fruit, wasn't it? Next time, mate. Sure. Kishan did another experimental slash, and this time it made an audible whoosh. The spectators oohed and awed, but this wasn't for them. He knew that he only had one shot to get accustomed to the blade. You done showing off? Nothing wrong with putting on a little show. Sounds like you're stalling for time. Getting cold feet, perhaps? Psh, not a chance. Let's get started then. You know what you're wagering? Shay mentioned something about you gambling with time. It's not gambling if it's a game of skill. But that's beside the point. We're both wagering 4 hours. If you win, it comes from the cafe's balance. If I win, it comes from yours. You've got around 16 hours left in case you weren't keeping track. Shit, only that many? Want a little extra time to play with then? Hell yes. Let's stop wasting it and let's stop wasting it and get this over with. You sure you know what you're getting into? Most people are pretty shy about playing with the time they have left, especially when their tank's running as empty as yours. Yep, come on. Unless you're getting cold feet. Hardly. You've got 30 seconds. Smack the timer when you're ready. Oh. The crowd cheered and Kishan fed off their enthusiasm. In response, Maddie leaned back and tapped her fingers on the table, feigning impatience. He met her eyes, grinned, and continued his performance. His stabbing motion got faster as he went, to the point narrowly missing each of his fingers. Stabs, strong enough to drive the knife a good millimeter or two in the table, were good if you wanted to put on a show. And of course, giving the spectators a show was part of the fun. You might be going fast enough to put on a show, but you're not going fast enough to win. How'd I do? 16 sets, if I counted correctly. Whoa. I couldn't do 16. That's how many Maddie beat me with. Is she gonna lose? Nah, she's gonna kick his arse. Feeling good about that result? Certainly am. Rightio then. Watch closely. Oh, I will. 16. 1, 3, 7, 11, 1, 3, 7, 11, 15. Told you, she's unbeatable. Is it magic? She could cheat if she wanted to. Definitely not. She's just that good. Poor guy. He didn't know what he was getting into. Sorry, mate. You beat me fair and square. I'm pretty impressed. I aim to please. I'll be taking those hours now, if you don't mind. Yeah, sure. How does this work? Just like this. You won't feel a thing. Kishan felt a brief tightness in his chest, and for just a moment, the tip of Maddie's finger burned white hot. Ow! Shit! Someone in the crowd laughed. Sorry, I lied. It's done now, though. All right. Does anyone else dare to compete with me? Come on, looking for some actual decent opposition here. I'll take any challenge, even if it's chess or something. Any challenge? I challenge you to get everyone a drink. Come on, Che. Round's on me. Uh-oh. She's in trouble. I didn't realize you were watching. There wasn't anything happening upstairs, and I got bored. Right. So, you took some hours from Kishan, huh? Yes, I did. You feel good about that? Che, Do you? I won them fair and square. He didn't know what he was getting into. There's an obvious power imbalance here that you're exploiting. He knew the rules. That doesn't change anything. You led him to believe that he'd get some extra time. Oh, dick move! And, barring a miracle on his part, that absolutely wasn't going to happen. It doesn't matter. He's just passing through. A couple hours won't make any difference. Maddie, I'm disappointed in you. Our patrons respect us. We need to earn that respect by treating them with respect ourselves. This is not respectful or dignified. Cheating vulnerable passers-through out of their time, we're above that. We're better than that. I don't care whether you think it's dishonest or not. I want you to give that poor man his time back. Don't pout. This is serious. I feel like a broken record saying this, but while I understand your intentions are good, you can't keep doing these things. It's all for you. If you really want to do this for me, find another way. This isn't worth it, Maddie. It breaks my heart to see you like this, and I know that you're trying your hardest. But this really, truly is not worth sacrificing your own self-respect over. Everyone here respects you, but you gambling with hours just cheapens that. I'll give the hours back. Shame. I was pretty great with the knife. Still not as good as me. I was pretty close. Aw. Best friends. Best friends 5 ever. So they went in a basement, but they still, like, it looked like they were outside when they were having that conversation. So what the, I mean, I guess they did say that the building is weird. Achievement unlocked, rise and shine. Hi, Grundle. How you doing, baby? It's our friends. Loveless. Yes. What form did you have before being reborn? I think I was a crab. Come on, I'm being serious. Ashley wouldn't harvest spirit liquid from a crab. You're assuming an awful lot about how squeamish she is. As far as I can remember, I lived above streets next to the sky. So, a bird then? Wings and feathers and such? No, not that. I do remember flying, though. Oh, were you a sugar glider? That's really specific. Describe? Did you eat insects and tree sap and flower nectar? That is familiar. Wonder how Ashley found you then. Could have been anything, really. You mentioned bright lights earlier. Oof. Yeah, I'm thinking you got hit by a car. That seems likely? Is that bad? I mean, you're here now, so whether you like it or not. Shut up. I'm still adjusting. I like this little like side mystery that we're being made privy to in between. Oh. We're definitely picking suplex. We're picking white hot. Power imbalance. Let me see. Need 4 more. Blood. Let's do extra time. Luck. Gambling contra. Let's do gambling. Okay, now we have Maddie. Shay. Hey. Awesome, awesome. Good, 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 good. Oh, did you join the Discord? Welcome. My Discord has been very quiet lately. I've been trying to come up with ways to change that, but I also have been very tired lately. But Discord is one of the fastest ways to get a hold of me. Grundle, you cannot lay on my keyboard. You absolutely. You want to lay up here. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, we could just unlock this, like, straight up. Humid dry. Sorry, I'm trying to be a good cat mom and also play a game for my friends on the internet. Yeah. Oh, or you stuck a little bit? Oh, there you go. Dear you. Oh. Grundle. What are you doing? Beth. Beth won. Yeah, let's do this one. Let's go, little girl. The man standing in front of Beth smirked. The knife he held seemed almost slight compared to his massive hands, but that didn't make it any less intimidating. Finish this one quick, came a call from behind the knife holder. 3 men stood behind him, wearing expressions which ranged from amused to bored. Beth felt her palm getting sweaty and loosened her grip on the knife in her right hand, sliding her thumb along the guard to reassure herself that its shape hadn't changed since the moment she'd picked it up. Take your friend's advice, begged Seth to the man who was menacing her. Finish this quick. After all, I am just a little girl. Well, as little as any 15-year-old girl could be. Can do, said the man, and he drew his knife up for an overhead swing. The man's movements suggested that he didn't know how to use a knife. Not really. He was swinging the knife like he'd swing a fist, like he was trying to bludgeon her with it, like he'd never really used a knife before. He was stupid. Mercifully stupid. She tried to reassure herself of that fact, trying not to lose her resolve. He lunged toward her as he brought the knife down, and Beth raised her left arm. She felt the edge of the knife hit her skin, but the impact of the blow caused the man to lose his grip on the knife. An opening. Beth grabbed the attacker's knife arm and pulled him toward her while thrusting her own knife toward him at chest level. She drove the knife into the man's chest with all the force she could muster, and he fell to the ground and gasped as Beth released her grip on him. The man lay on the ground and put a hand to his chest, moaning, "Son of a bitch." "You doing okay down there?" said Beth. What a wonderful response to just having stabbed someone who was trying to attack you. "You doing okay down there?" The man sat up and patted his chest. "I didn't expect to lose to a girl." "No," said the man. "Well, that too, but I didn't expect it to hurt this much." "These rubber practice knives are no joke," said Beth. "If I'd stabbed any harder, I might have broken a rib." The man stood up. "You got a name, girl?" "You can call me Beth," she said, extending a hand. He shook it with a look of hesitation. "I'm Kyle. I've got to say, Beth, that was kind of a cheap trick." "How do you mean?" said Beth. "I mean the way you blocked my knife with your arm. It just bounced right off." "You couldn't do that if we were using real knives." "He's right," said one of the spectators. "Not really a fair fight with rubber knives." "I'd like a rematch," said Kyle. "Yeah," said one of the spectators. "Rematch." The others began chanting along with him. "Rematch, rematch, rematch." A voice thundered from above. "I thought I told you guys to keep it down." Everyone spun around to face the stairs leading up to the ground floor. Maddie was leaning over the railing of the staircase with a stern look on her face. She tapped a poster on the wall. Beth took a moment to glance at the sign. Fight Club rules. 1. Don't quote Tyler Durden. 2. Seriously, no Tyler Durden quotes. 3. Always assume your opponent is mortal. Practice weapons only. 4. Be considerate to other guests. Keep noise to a reasonable level. We don't have many rules here, said Maddie. Please don't make me kick you out of the basement. Everyone else in the room cast their gaze downward, looking ashamed, with several mumbled apologies. Maddie nodded and climbed back up the stairs, content that she had made her point. Made her point. Seriously, though, said Kyle, not really a fair fight without real knives. Beth walked over to the edge of the room and lifted a rug, revealing 2 steak knives. Several whispers erupted from the small crowd. Where'd you get these? Asked Kyle. I swiped them from upstairs, said Beth. They're not exactly combat gear, but these blades are fit to cut through flesh, whether it's a cooked steak or a human arm. Beth held one of the steak knives by the blade, presenting its handle to Kyle. We've already broken one rule tonight. How about breaking another one? I won't get hurt, said Kyle. I mean, I can still feel the pain, but, I'm not afraid of getting stabbed. Neither am I, said Beth. But don't say you're ready for this if you're not ready to bleed. She turned the knife over in her hands, pressing her thumb against the tip, just enough to draw a single drop of blood. Kyle grinned. Do I look like I would be here if I was afraid to die? So let me see. We finished Beth's story. Is there anything else? Aha! Billiards 2. Let me look around. I just want to look around before I use my word tokens. The Fisherman 3. What's this? Rotten Poppy. What in tarnation? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and read this. I am playing Necrobarista. It is a game about a cafe that dead folks can spend their final 24 hours on Earth at before they have to move on. And we're finding out a lot of very interesting, lore and world building. Maddie opened an herb jar. That's the grammar. The grammar is correct, but it's different from what I'm used to, so I'm going to adjust it so that I can read it properly. Maddie opened a herb jar and sighed as she examined the contents. Rotten. She began pouring them down the sink. I hate poppy seeds, she muttered to herself. I won't tolerate that kind of hate speech here, said Shay. Too bad the rules aren't yours to make, old man, said Maddie. You should have thought of that before you handed me the keys. I could help you get the keys back, said Ashley. I got a magnetic grabber that the keys are a metaphor, said Maddie. They're not some kind of magical talisman that grants ownership over an establishment, but there is a magical talisman that grants ownership over the establishment, asked Ashley. Yeah. It's called a deed, and this deed entitles me to certain privileges, such as expressing my hatred for poppy seeds. Hate is not good for the soul, said Shay. Hatred corrupts the soul. Hey, I'm new here, said Kishan, but are you talking literally? Does hatred actually corrupt the soul? Nah, hatred doesn't corrupt the soul, said Maddie. Nor will poppy seeds, despite being a distant cousin of the bay leaf. Oh, I didn't know that. I have to look that up now. It's going to bother me if I don't know that it's a fact. we're gonna learn something new here together today. Oh, I always have research-itis. You can't just say a thing and then just me be like, oh, okay. Let's see. Bay leaves are the leaves of the perennial evergreen shrub Laurus nobilis, more commonly known as laurel. Laurel trees are part of the Lauraceae plant family and are related to cinnamon and sassafras. Oh, yeah, they come from the same genus of plant. Interesting. Uh, it's a good thing, said Shay, because Maddie's soul is full of hate. Trust me, I've seen the ultrasound. Once again, as the new guy, I've gotta ask, are you talking literally? No, hatred doesn't show up on an ultrasound, said Maddie, and I assume the thing about the bay leaves corrupting the soul is also a metaphor. Oh, no, that part was entirely literal. Bay leaves absorb bitterness. You always remove the bay leaf from something before eating it. Bitterness, as in figurative bitterness? I was talking literally in the sense that bay leaves absorb figurative bitterness. But yes, they also absorb literal bitterness. I'm so confused right now, said Shay. Just don't absorb a bay leaf into your soul and you'll be fine, said Maddie. It's not the kind of thing that happens accidentally. Are you sure? Said Kishan. Because I think I may have accidentally ingested a bay leaf one time. My friend's grandma made this big pot of chili. The soul is not connected to your digestive tract, said Maddie. It's not your gut, so unless you're inhaling your food, it's not going to be a problem. Again, said Kishan, new guy here. Soul. Respiratory system? That's a thing? Oh, yeah. Why do you think people are so into burning herbs and inhaling them? I always assumed that was just how, I don't know exactly how cannabis works, but it's like psychoactive? What? Said Maddie. No, not that herb. Like people who burn incense. Huh, said Kishan. That's something new. That's why you always have to watch out for when herbs go bad, said Maddie. Someone might accidentally inhale some of them. Yet another reason to hate poppy seeds and their short shelf life. Kishan's eyes narrowed. How long does it take for poppy seeds to go bad? These went bad in a matter of months, said Maddie. A matter of months? Said Kishan. How many months are we talking here? Maybe 30. Kishan did some counting on his fingers. 30 months is 2.5 years, if I'm not mistaken, Che piped up. You left that jar of poppy seeds for 2.5 years? Maddie nodded. As I said, a number of months. 30 is a number. 30 is an injustice, said Che. How have you not touched poppy seeds in all this time? People don't actually like poppy seeds, said Maddie. People just like the muffins they come in. If you give them the muffin without the poppy seeds, they'll like it even more. I have to disagree. I like that little teeny tiny crunch in a lemon poppy seed muffin, you know what I mean? Poppy seeds just make everything worse. People love poppy seeds, said Che. Me, for instance. I have a great love for the humble poppy. Really, said Maddie. Then how is it that you've never touched this jar of poppy seeds in the past 30 or so months it's been sitting on the spice shelf? Che shrugged. I like lots of things. Evidently, during the past 30 months I've found things that I enjoyed more than the humble poppy seed. I'm offended by the idea that you would discriminate against such a lowly and unpretentious food item. You like the idea of poppy seeds, said Maddie. You like the idea of a herb that comes in discrete units called seeds, but you don't have to wonder about how much a sprig is. It's something that you can picture as opposed to cumin that you wouldn't recognize even if you said it on your tongue, or rosemary, which you probably forgot was a spice and which you couldn't tell from time. When you see me disposing of poppy seeds, it pains you because it's something you can conceptualize. If I told you that I hate cumin and I had to flush a bunch of it down the sink, would you be bothered by that? Probably not, said Che. So, really, it is not I who am discriminating against the poppy seed. It is you who is discriminating against non-poppy seed spices. There is no reason for us to have poppy seeds anywhere in this cafe. People claim they want them, but you can go years without ever serving up a single poppy seed and no one will notice its absence. A woman wearing a loose green sweater walked up to the counter. Were you just talking about poppy seeds? Yes, said Maddie. We're all out. Oh, that's too bad, said the woman. I was just hoping you might have a... Don't say muffin, Maddie thought to herself. Don't say anything about poppy seed muffins. A poppy seed muffin, said the woman. My grandmother was really fond of them. Che grinned as Maddie tried to avoid cringing. The woman in the green sweater said, they used to be part of a standard muffin trifecta, chocolate, blueberry, poppy seed. I always wondered why cafes stopped serving poppy seed muffins. I wonder, said Maddie aloud. It's been so long since I've tasted one, said the woman. Years, I'm guessing, said Maddie. Yeah, it's been years, said the woman. That was a cute little excerpt. I like that. Oh, what's this back here? Ashley's journal, too. It's her little buddy. Oh, damn it. Oh, hi. I wasn't yelling at you. I happen to be a fan of lemon poppy seed. It has to be lemon poppy seed, though. With like a nice like vanilla glaze, perhaps. I really wish that I had the parchment to get this going, because I really want to know what's up with the robots. Is there anything back here? I think it was just the poppy seeds, perhaps? Yes. Okay, so... yeah, I think billiards is kind of the only... No, wait, there's the fisherman, though. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do it because it's here. You know, kid, you've got style. Brad perked up. It was the first unsolicited remark he'd heard from old man Thomas all night. He'd been expecting a compliment after beating Thomas, but to hear that kind of comment after a loss made him perk right up. Thanks, said Brad. It wasn't a compliment, said Thomas. And just like that, Brad's mood came crashing down. Thomas continued, all the best players back in the day, none of them had style. Style doesn't win tournaments. Sure, said Brad. Consistency is what wins tournaments. Consistency doesn't mean anything, said Thomas. That's a symptom of skilled play. It's not a thing you can just decide on. No one sits down at the table thinking, gee, I better be consistent today. Nobody. So if you're not thinking about consistency, what are you thinking about? Fundamentals. Thomas chalked the end of his cue. Like rubs the chalk on that. Fundamentals are what matters most, because if you don't get the fundamentals right, all the fancy shit isn't gonna matter. Thomas leaned down to line up his cue. The straight-in shot is your specialty. Several opponents told me exactly that, tongue-in-cheek, thinking they were insulting me, but I take that as a compliment. If you control the cue ball, you can turn any shot into a chip shot. That's what you want to do. That's how I can still sink 'em, even at my old age. I know, I've been watching you, said Brad. Your cue ball control is incredible. You're a very talented player. Not talented, said Thomas. You can do it too. The question is whether you've got the discipline and the patience. Thomas followed through with his stroke and hit the apex of the triangle head on. He sank 2 balls, 1 stripe, and 1 solid. Oh, that means he, like, hit it right in the middle. Plain poppy seed is just odd. I have just eaten like a teaspoon full of poppy seeds before. I do not recommend it. They are very, in such a large quantity like that, they are actually very bitter. And that's probably why you want them in baked goods more than you want them just like in your mouth. Honestly, I think they're more for texture than anything else. Shit. Whether you've got, he sank 2 balls, 1 stripe and 1 solid. He pointed to the striped one, signifying his choice. I'm plenty disciplined, said Brad. When I was in high school, I'd come out every day after school and put in at least 4 hours of practice. Sometimes I'd come in after dinner to squeeze in a few hours more. Then on weekends, I'd come and spend all day up here. Of course you did, said Thomas. All the pros have. Anyone can put in time. At a certain point, what matters can't be the number of hours you put in because everyone puts in the time. What matters is how you use that time. And it seems like you spent a lot of time practicing trick shots. Thomas lined up and made several practice strokes. Brad found himself getting annoyed with Thomas. Brad knew better than to try to talk to Thomas while he was lining up a shot. That was bad etiquette and just bad sportsmanship, plain and simple. But it kept him from offering timely retorts to Thomas's statements. It was bad sportsmanship, Brad decided, to talk at an opponent in a situation where etiquette forbade him from responding. Thomas finally took the shot and sunk a solid-colored ball, but a bad bounce put the cue in the pocket with it. Brad sighed with relief as he took control of the ball, and with it, controlled the conversation. You're right, it takes a lot of practice. Brad lined up a shot aiming at one of the balls in the opposite corner. If he could get the angle just right, he took the shot, and the cue ball knocked one of the striped balls into the back left pocket before ricocheting and hitting another ball into the back right pocket, a clean double. Brad tapped the table with his cue as if to emphasize the shot he had just made. You don't learn how to do shit like this overnight. That's a nice trick, said Thomas. Now, can you do the same thing 10 times a row? Now, can you do the same thing 10 times in a row without messing it up? No, said... There's a typo. No, said Bad. No, said Brad. It's a hard shot, about a 10%er for most people. But I'm good. I can get it 30, 40%. A 30% shot isn't worth taking, said Thomas. If I offered you a coin flip bet with a weighted coin, would you take it? No, of course not, said Brad. And yet you take the low percentage shot. I make it a higher percentage shot, though, said Brad. Yes, and I'm sure that you look like a big hero by doing it, and when you miss, no one calls you on it, because defensive shots are boring, said Thomas. Actually, thinking about it, I don't think I've seen any kind of poppy seed baked good in a very long time, although in fairness, I don't typically eat a lot of baked goods. It's an unfortunate choice I have to make. I can play defensively, said Brad, but you don't win games by playing defensively. Of course not, said Thomas. Lando. Hi, baby. Are you trying so hard to be a good boy? I love you, baby. You can lay here, but you can't lay on the keyboard, okay? Okay? He's purring so hard. He just wants the opportunity. Hey, no. What did I say about the keyboard? I can play defensively. There's nothing on the scoreboard that lets you tabulate the places where you denied your opponent a point. Brad was angry now, and he began lining up his next shot just so he wouldn't have to hear the old man talk. Some players might get tilted in a situation like this, but Brad... I totally missed that. Emotional. Can I go back? Yes, I can. Some players might get tilted in a situation like this, but Brad played better when he was emotional. Whatever it was that made him play better under pressure also made him play better while angry. He couldn't even think about the shots he was making. Wait. Hey. Emotional. Shots he was making. He was operating on pure instinct and conscious thought. The thought that was chased away by anger was only a distraction. Brad tried for another double. He missed the second ball, but one was enough to set him up for a triple bank shot, which he followed with another shot that he put spin on. He didn't even need to curve the ball around anything. He just wanted to show Thomas that he could do it reliably. Fortunately, he didn't get punished for it. His last shot placed one of Thomas's balls between the black 8 ball and the white cue ball. Brad knew that he could sink the shot easily by hitting Thomas's solid into his stripe, but he was on fire and he wanted something flashy. He struck the cue ball's base, driving the leather tip of the stick into the table, and it bounced the ball up and over Thomas's ball, hitting his own and sending it into the pocket. Brad turned to Thomas with a look of defiance. Looks like the game is mine, old man. Kiss already, damn. Yep, said Thomas. He took another sip of his beer. Is that all you have to say? Yep, said Thomas. How about, oh, you outplayed me. Do you need me to tell you that? Said Thomas. A little acknowledgement would be nice. A moment after he finished saying it, Brad found himself cringing. Hi. He was sounding like a petulant child. He was frustrated and angry and disappointed, but knowing all of that about himself didn't make any of it any less true. Thomas shrugged. I thought you played to win the game, not for validation. Oh, give me a break, said Brad. That line coming from a pro? When you compete, play to win, sure, but there's money on the line, and the money goes to the person who gets the W. You play to win the game, you get the money. But I get the feeling you're playing for something else. What are you talking about? Said Brad. You play to impress people. That's different from playing to win. That's why you never take the defensive shot. I just won. Yep, said Thomas, but you weren't playing to win. Just because you happen to win doesn't mean you made the right decision. How the hell does that make any sense? Said Brad. Thomas took a coin out of his pocket. Here's a hypothetical. Suppose I have a coin. Smartass. I ask you to call heads or tails on a $1 bet. Now, you know that the coin is weighted. It lands on heads 70% of the time. What do you bet on? Heads, of course, said Brad. Now, I flip the coin. It comes up tails. Bad luck, Brad. You just lost $1. But did you make the right decision? What? Thomas continued. If you had called tails, you would have won the bet. Clearly, calling tails is the wrong decision, but sometimes you make the wrong decision and get short-term payoffs. That's why the fact that you won doesn't necessarily mean that you made the right decision. Whoa. That's something to mill around in the old noggin. Dang. And sometimes these things only reveal themselves after you flip the coin hundreds of times. I've played hundreds of games, said Brad, and that's as a pro. Practice games, I play 100 games in a week, easy. Maybe 200 games a week, depending. That shook my brain right up, right up in its casing. Hey, Dr. Derp, how's it going? And how many times have you made the WBC? I won the WBC, said Brad. Right, said Thomas. That's the thing about calling tails. Sometimes, even if you make the wrong choice, randomness comes up in your favor and you happen to run hot. But in the long run, things don't quite pan out. Brad threw his cue down. So now you're saying that my wins were all due to luck? Not all luck, said Thomas. Like you said, it takes some skill to take a 10% shot into a 30% shot. A lot of skill, in fact. You've got good hands and a good eye for the ball, but the lust for a cool shot supersedes that. You'd rather fail spectacularly than win through boring play. Fuck you, said Brad. You know what? I actually won the WBC. Maybe I did run hot for just 1 year, but at least I have a championship to my name. You made it to the finals 6 times and lost every time, and now your career is done. You're over with. You'll never be a WBC champion, a title which I hold, by the way. You're right, said Thomas. I don't mean to knock the high variance approach. But maybe that's what you want, to win once and then burn out. Yeah, that is what I want, said Brad, annoyed to find himself agreeing with Thomas. What have you done with your life since retirement, old man? Ever done anything wild? I bet you've lived in more one night than you have in your entire life. I'm happy with the way I spent my life, said Thomas. No regrets. His eyes softened. Can you say the same? The question should have come as a challenge, but there was something in Thomas's eyes as he looked at Brad that made it feel even worse. Thomas's expression wasn't one of antagonism. It was one of pity. Brad knew deep in the pit of his heart that Thomas wasn't doing it to attack him, and that made it sting even worse. Brad started to say something but found himself choking on a lump in his throat, and as he reached up and felt wetness on his cheeks, he realized that he was crying. Damn. Wow. Man, the writing in this game is so good. How are you doing today, Dr. Dirt? Did I already ask that? It doesn't matter. You still have to tell me. You still have to tell me. Oh, fuck. Okay. Did I already ask? Okay. That just shows you how badly I want to know. Did you answer? Okay, here, hang on. Let me... Oh, you're going well. Okay. Okay, good. I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that. Kishan's footsteps echoed in a way that startled him. Were his footsteps always so loud? Perhaps it was just the contrast with the surrounding environment, which seemed completely silent, that made his footfalls seem so jarringly loud as he walked along the catwalk. He was on a catwalk. Why was he on a catwalk? There seemed to be a gaping space below him, filled with some sort of mist that he couldn't see through. It was fog-like, and yet despite the fog that lapped at his feet, the air felt so dry. The air was thick here. As he breathed heavily, Kishan felt an overwhelmingly sweet, sickly odor, like the smell of wet or rotting wood, but all he could see around him were steel beams and a concrete path in front of him. Was it rust he was smelling? No, he knew the smell of rust. This was different. This smell was somehow organic, like the smell of a forest after fresh rainfall. Kishan shivered. Far in the distance he could see what looked like a building of some sort, so far away that it made the structure he was inside feel almost tunnel-like, as if its only purpose was to convey him to that distant building. He continued walking forward, but as he walked, the building seemed to be growing more and more distant. He quickened his pace, and as he walked faster, he could feel himself moving through the thick, stifling air. Yet as he looked down, he could see the texture of the catwalk in front of him unchanged, as though he were walking in place. Kishan started to turn backward, but saw only a blinding light. His eyes immediately shut, and when he opened them, he was again facing into the tunnel, with the distant building at the center of his field of view. He tried turning around, but every time he tried to turn his head, his eyes involuntarily shut at the sight of the light, and he was forced to close his eyes or look away, always confronted again with the sight of the small hut that he opened. with the sight of the small hut when he opened his eyes. His heart pounded violently inside of his chest. The tunnel was so quiet that he could hear his own heartbeat, feel his own pulse inside of his head. Something about this place felt deeply, incredibly wrong. Get back. I have to get back. He tried turning again, but this time found himself unable to even begin rotating his body before his eyes snapped shut, placing him again in a world of darkness until he opened them again and was confronted with the sight of the small hut in the distance, now looking more far away than ever. I have to get back. Kishan kept facing the building and took a step backward, and as he placed his foot on the ground, he felt a gust of wind knock him forward. He let out a yelp of terror. Instinctively, his hands reached for the opposite edges of the catwalk as he fell, trying to steady himself for fear of falling off. The catwalk was wide enough that his body didn't land close enough to the edge for that to have been a risk, and yet as he looked toward the edge, he felt a growing sense of dread that there was something down there that would capture him if he allowed it to catch even the smallest hold of him. Almost as he thought it, he felt the sensation of something pressing against his legs. He stumbled to his feet. He ran forward. The hut ahead of him seemed to grow no closer as he ran, but he ran all the same, running not to reach a destination, but to be away from whatever it was that was behind him. Moments ago, his only thought was an overwhelming desire to turn back, a worry that he was somehow trapped in here. But now that worry was replaced with an overwhelming sense of dread that propelled him forward. He had been pushed forward by something. Something was behind him. Kishan leaned forward and ran. He was no runner. He often found himself winded when forced to climb more than one flight of stairs, and yet he ran and felt no sense of tiredness holding him back, no need to catch his breath. Maybe it was the thick air here that never allowed him to run out of breath. Maybe it was the fear of whatever it was behind him Maybe it was the fear of whatever it was behind him was that strong. That was a weird sentence. Kishan felt the air stinging at his eyes as he ran. By now he was running so fast that the thick air felt like a hot wind on his face. Tears began running down his face, but he couldn't find it in him to raise a hand to wipe at his eyes. That would mean slowing his sprint. So he closed his eyes, fully aware that he was running down a catwalk that had no handrail on either side. At this point, he didn't care. He ran and ran. Long after the tears on his face had dried, Kishan realized he could hear only the sound of his own feet as they struck the catwalk. He couldn't even hear the rush of wind, even as it seemed to buffet his face. There were no sounds of anyone or anything pursuing him. Perhaps there was no pursuer at all. He allowed himself to open his eyes and look down. He looked over his shoulder. This time there was no blinding light, only a distant glow, like the light at the end of a long tunnel. In a way, it was the light at the end of a long tunnel, and observing the dim glow of the distant light, Kishan suddenly realized just how far he had run. He turned around and saw the building right in front of him. It had windows that were covered with the same fog that covered the ground around him. Kishan reached for the door handle. He half expected it to be locked and felt a moment of panic as the handle bowed under the pressure of his hand. He was ready to face whatever was on... was he ready to face whatever was on the other side of that door? Did he even want to enter? Did he have a choice? What was it that awaited him inside of this building? Answers or more baffling questions? Kishan looked down the tunnel and suddenly felt cold. Whatever this place was, he needed to escape it, and the only form of egress that seemed available to him was the door of this building. He leaned on the handle and felt the door swing open. And that was when he made it to the cafe. Okay. Neat. Let me see. So we have cellar, staff only. Oh, but I want to go there. Okay, so now we can go back to the terminal. See if we can fill out any of these here stories. No. Damn it. I really want to read that one. Because it looks like it's just a piece of environmental fluff, and that's kind of some of my favorite things to read. I think that might be it, unless there's something... Wait. I have no idea what that symbol is. I haven't even remotely come across it. I believe we've already been through Maddie's inbox. Advisory role. I do not have everything I need for that. Did I do billiards 1? I don't have everything I need for that. I think it's time to move forward. Yes, let us continue.